بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay, as I mentioned previously, we are going to start connecting big dots in our understanding of the topic, which is simplifying the chaos, looking at the factors that shape our understanding of Islam in the contemporary world. And the reason why I said we're connecting big dots is that we are now entering into a phase in these lectures whereby, based on the foundation that we laid out in the previous lectures, you are now going to have an appreciation for the next few lectures, okay, what that means. But it's also important that, as we find out today, last week's class was quite a major class, a heavy class, and I think some of you, the feedback that I received was, it was quite scary, and several also said, but it described the time that we're living in, and it described a certain section of Muslims in this day and age. And one brother said to me, the list that he produced at the end, I can see that with certain individuals in his country. And I said, that's the Prophet ﷺ did mention that this type of thing will resurface and keep coming and going and coming and going. So it kind of just added to the importance of knowing this particular topic, and that the dots that we're connecting, you should start to see things forming very quickly in your minds, and the chaos starting to disappear quite quickly, particularly in the following few lectures that are coming up, inshaAllah ta'ala. So, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I didn't expect that one. So this is the YouTube LiveSoc, this one. What does this mean?
There are two Live ISOC channels, but the one with this symbol is the one to click on.
And then you'll find what?
The videos of these lectures.
Right, so there we have it. Thanks to our cameraman, Adam, Jazakallah khair, you're now able to access the recordings via this. And what is to type into YouTube?
Live ISOC.
Simplifying the chaos.
No, you just type in Live ISOC and then you click on this.
The
one with this
that
one.
simple.
And all the videos are there.
MashaAllah, it's made even more easy. Okay?
It's all on the playlist.
Alright, Bismillah. I'll recap. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You may be asking, why am I always bringing this up? Because the more this becomes embedded in your minds, the safer your minds and hearts will be from all the chaos that exists outside. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah historically follows of one of the four schools, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali. One of the schools of Aqidah, namely the Ash'aris, the Maturidis, and the non-anthropomorphists of the Athari and Hadith, Hanbali, who do tafweed, and we've explained what that means. And those that follow a path of Ihsan, Tasawwuf, that is grounded in the Quran and Sunnah. And this has been what the vast majority of Muslims for the vast majority of time have followed. This is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay, distinctive features of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. What do we know about this particular group, which is the greater number of Muslims historically? According to Ahl Sunnah, the Prophet had not specified or appointed a particular leader, Imam or Caliph by name to succeed him after his death. Also, another distinctive feature of Ahl Sunnah, the deep respect and love for all the companions of the Messenger, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Umar, Aisha, etc., as well as including the Prophet's family, Ali, Fatima, Zahra, Hassan, Hussein, and their offspring. I've added this number 4, this wasn't on last week, but I think now we have a greater appreciation, given that what we did last week about the Khawarij, this now should become another point. Number 4, tolerance of other opinions which are valid, compassion and mercy. Hallmarks of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Number 5, again, another one, lack of takfir. What is takfir? Calling somebody a disbeliever, a kafir. Ahl Sunnah do not get involved in just dishing out labels of kufr. Nor are they quick to call people mushrik or innovator. Alright? A lack of takfir, or saying or using the term mushrik or mubtada, innovator. Okay? And number 6, not raising their swords, okay, or their guns or whatever, words, killing against other Muslims who disagree with them. That is a hallmark of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? Our famous diagram, the blue is what? Muslims. Inshallah. And the green is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Obviously not drawn to scale. Shahada, obviously all Muslims acknowledging the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, facing the Qibla, praying 5 times a day, eating halal food. That's based on the hadith. Obviously non-Muslims are outside of Islam, which we know. But then we have a group called Ahl Bid'ah, the people of innovation, and they are still Muslim, but they are not considered Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Again, they are both Muslim. Alright, distinctive features of the people of innovation, Bid'ah, according to Ahl Sunnah. Number 1, hatred, cursing, abusing, false claims against the Sahaba, such as Abu Bakr, Umar, Aisha, and Abu Hurairah. Going into excessiveness in their praise of Ahlul Bayt. And I understand that many of you may not understand what I mean by excessiveness. That's another topic, inshallah. But excessiveness according to the Sharia, by inventing innovative beliefs, such as the Prophet putting Ali as his successor and others. Ahl Sunnah have called this behavior raf, to reject, and a group as a Rawafidah, because they reject Abu Bakr and Umar, which we now know. The Shia became known for this behavior, although some are more extreme than others. Distinctive features of Ahl Bid'ah, the flip side of the coin, which is hatred and jealousy, cursing, insulting, disrespecting and lessening the status and importance of the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet's family, and their descendants, as well as killing them, which we now have seen. Number 2, not tolerating valid differences of opinion within Ahl Sunnah, and rigidness and uncompromising. Number 3, extremist behavior, such as calling other Muslims kafir, and mushrik, and innovator, mubtadi'. Again, Ahl Sunnah don't do this. So this is a hallmark of the people of Ahl Bid'ah. And number 4, killing those people who don't have their beliefs. Killing other Muslims who don't share their beliefs. Ahl Sunnah have called this behavior nasb, and the group as nawasib. The Muslim, as the Prophet said, is one whom others are safe from their tongue and from their hands. And we now know that the Khawarij became known for this behavior, as we saw in last week's lecture. Alright, Kharijism and Shi'ism, Nasb and Raf, both have a radically different view to Ahl Sunnah on the source of religious authority in Islam. Historically, both act in opposition to one another, opposite sides of the coin. Alright, Ahl Sunnah is in the middle, between both extremes. Shi'ism and Khawarijism, in their modern forms, because they exist in their modern forms, continue to shape and influence how Islam is understood in the contemporary world. My challenge is to try and prove that to you. Both were dividing forces in the past, and they continue to be so today due to historical reasons, political reasons, geographic and financial reasons. That's what all these factors come into play and support what I'm saying, that both of these groups continue to influence how you understand Islam in this day and age. And that's the reason for doing this topic. Alright, again recap from last week. First, the Khawarij first appeared during the time of the Messenger, and their ideas gained momentum during the Caliphate of Uthman, and by Ali's Caliphate or Khilafah, they were a fully fledged organized group. Many hadiths exist on it, and they can be found in Sahih Muslim and other collections. Scholars have written extensively about them, warning people of the dangers they pose. Hence, that's why I focus on this more than the other flip side of the coin, as I'll explain later. Sadly, many of us are ignorant of their history, description, and their traits. Silent at the time, the Prophet ﷺ said, there will arise at the end of time a people young in age and weak in intellect. Their speech will be that of the best of creation. They will recite the Quran, but it shan't go beyond their throats. They will shoot through the religion like an arrow goes through the game, the animal, or the target. When you meet them, kill them, the Prophet says in battle, for in their killing you will receive a great reward from Allah on the day of judgment. Al-Bukhari and Muslim. the emergence of the Khawarij at the time of Ali. As already mentioned, Ali had a dispute with Muawiyah over his leadership, which we explained in previous classes. Both sides had an army who fought each other, and there was a battle called the Battle of Siffin. As a result, both agreed to settle and prevent further bloodshed through arbitration or mediation, which meant Ali chose Abu Musa al-Ash'ari and Muawiyah chose Amr bin As, and both of these two reached an agreement to stop fighting. Sadly, a large group from Ali's army didn't like the idea and preferred to fight, and they rejected his decision and left his troops. Judgment is only for Allah, famous verse of the Quran, and sadly a verse that they misunderstood completely. Despite this approach of saving lives, a large group of Ali's army disapproved and cited the verse of Quran, judgment is only for Allah. In al-hukma illa lillah. When asked about this, when Ali asked them, they replied, do you, Ali, seek judgment from men in that which is Allah's command? There is no judgment except for Allah. Ali, you have gone against this verse, and you didn't judge by Allah, and you judge by men. There's a shirk, associating partners with Allah. Let us fight, and Allah will judge. That's their judgment is only for Allah. That's what they meant. Let us fight, and that's how the verse of Quran comes into action, that the judgment of Allah will essentially be last man standing. And that's the verse of Quran. But you, Ali, interfered in that process, and therefore you've made shirk. That's what they accused. Obviously, Ali didn't. Ali and anyone else that agreed with arbitration had been guilty of doing a bid'ah in their minds, and ultimately had left Islam in their minds. Literal interpretation of the verse. They misunderstood this verse and took it literally. Why? Human age, the Prophet said, no wisdom. Small intellects, not bright, can't grasp deep issues. And quoting verses, thinking that it supports them, but it is against them. Again, these are qualities the Prophet mentioned about the Khawarij. Their leaders left the city for the mountains and wasteland, claiming too much bid'ah. And that where Ali was in Iraq, now had become Dar al-Kufr, an abode of disbelief. And they began to kill people, specifically those that believed Ali and Muawiyah were not kafir. If you didn't think that Ali and Muawiyah were not kafir, they'd kill you. So that they'd investigate you, pull you aside. What do you think about Abu Bakr? What do you think about Umar? What do you think about Uthman? And if you said he was good in the beginning, but then deviated towards the end, and they ask you, what do you think about Ali or Muawiyah? And what they expected you to say, kafir. They say, well done, pass by. If you were to say, Abu Bakr was good, obviously, Umar was good, Uthman was good in the beginning and the end, they'd kill you. Or if you didn't believe that Ali and Muawiyah were kafir, according to them, they'd kill you. And this is what happened. They killed Abdullah bin Khabbab and his family, his pregnant wife. Ali sent Harith bin Murrah to talk to them, again Ali's approach, and he sent Ibn Abbas, as we mentioned, to debate them. And they killed him as well. They killed Harith bin Murrah. Ali said, which amongst you are responsible for this? Don't kill the messenger. And the Khawarij said, we all killed him. We believe that their blood and yours is halal. Judgment is only for Allah. Again, this verse that they misunderstood. And Ali said that about this verse, a word of truth. It's a verse of Quran. كلمة الحق. أريد بها باطل. By which falsehood is intended. So Sayyidina Ali said, yes, what they're saying is correct. It's a verse of Quran. But they intend falsehood by it. They misunderstood it. They view themselves as true Muslims. Ali then went to war with them after seeing all the signs the Messenger had warned about. Somebody asked me about this and said, the fact that Sayyidina Ali went and fought against them, so I had a bit of an issue with that, and I was like, Sayyidina Ali, or this faith is not a faith of killing and so on and so forth, unless we have no other option. What did Sayyidina Ali do? He left them. That didn't work. He tried to talk to them. That didn't work. He sent Ibn Abbas to debate them. That didn't work. He sent a messenger to go and talk to them. They ended up killing him. And he ended up killing everybody else who got in their way. So Sayyidina Ali had no other approach no other thing to do but what? Huh? To fight them, no other option. Otherwise, to leave them, what would happen?
Just get worse.
Yeah, to get worse. Okay, so somebody had an issue with that, and I just, the alternative is madness, and our deen is not a deen that allows madness. The messenger has said, fight them. There you go. If all the signs are there, and the leader mentions, and the leader says, khalas. And different battles, but the battle of Nahrawan is the most important, as we know. 12,000 in total, the Khawarij, the extremists, all fasting and praying and reciting the Quran, as we mentioned, as the Prophet also foretold. And their army was defeated by Ali's army with a few survivors. In fact, Ali said, less than 10 of them will survive, and less than 10 of us will die. That's what he said. How did he know that? The Prophet told him. One of them who survived is called Ibn Muljam. Who can tell me something about Ibn Muljam? Hands up. I expect everybody who said last week. Muhammad?
He killed Sayyidina Ali.
Yes. This man's gone down in history for killing the fourth caliph. Was Ibn Muljam kafir? No, he wasn't. He was Muslim. Did Ibn Muljam think Ali was a kafir? Sadly, he did. Subhanallah, la ilaha illallah. So Ibn Muljam and two survivors vowed to get their revenge back for the defeat at Nahrawan. On the 17th night of Ramadan, went to Iraq and waited for Ali to come out, as was his custom, to wake people up for Salah. And they had poisoned a dagger, and all three of them hit or struck Sayyidina Ali. Ibn Muljam struck him in the head, and blood completely covered his beard, turning it red. Which is something that Sayyidina Ali knew what was going to happen. He knew towards the end of his life he was going to be martyred, down to the script that his beard would be full of blood. And that's what happened. How did he know that? The Prophet told him that was going to happen. Judgment is only for Allah, not for you, O Ali, and not for your companions. This is what Ibn Muljam was saying as he was killing Sayyidina Ali. Quoting the verse of Quran. Ali died some days later from his wounds. Ibn Muljam was executed while he was reading the Quran. And I think I mentioned to you, or mentioned to some people afterwards, that Ibn Muljam actually requested that he be allowed to go and kill Muawiyah and then come back, and then they can execute him because he would die as shaheed. But he said, give me a bit, I'll come back because I want shahada, I want to die a martyr, but let me go and kill Muawiyah first, and I'll come back and then you kill me. Such was his extremism. All this because of this, all because they misunderstood a verse of the Quran and not willing to accept a different understanding. And the Prophet's warning, the Prophet warned there shall appear a group of people from my Ummah, the Muslim, in the direction of the East, which is important for the next few classes. The direction of the East. Not the East of UK, the East of Arabia or Mecca and Medina. They will recite the Quran, but it won't go past their throats. Every time a generation of them appears, it will be put down. Every time a generation of them appears, it will be put down. Every time a generation of them appears, it will be put down. Abdullah said he said this more than 10 times until the Dajjal, Masih al-Dajjal, Antichrist, appears from their last remnants. And hadith is there. Another warning from the Prophet Ibn Umar said, I heard the Prophet saying, each time a generation of them appears, it is to be cut down. This is what occurred more than 20 times, until the Antichrist appears in their last remnants. Ibn Majah, and again they will continue to appear until the last of them appears with the Dajjal. And if you encounter them, then kill them. They are the worst of creation and character. Ahmed and Nasai. Alright, summary description. We'll go over this description and then we'll pray Maghrib. This is the most important thing for us in understanding the Khawarij in our contemporary time. That one, that's the most important one. Saying, that's what they say, saying that it is obligatory, wajib. Just like Hajj is wajib, prayer is wajib, fasting is obligatory, They believe also it's obligatory, wajib, to rebel and violently overthrow leadership using a false religious pretense and misunderstanding that they are kafir. In other words, the leader is a kafir. And the president, the king or the leader or whoever is kafir, therefore we now have to take him down violently and overthrow him. In our day and age, the Khawarij, that's their flag in this day and age. If you want to understand the Khawarij, in today's age, that's the number one thing. Whenever you see people talk like that, or mentioning this, or encouraging that, know that they're the Khawarij, and move yourself quickly away. They will appear from this man, the Khawarij. In the hadith we mentioned last week, the Prophet said that they will come from the offspring of this particular man. Thick, unkempt beards, wearing their lower garments high above their legs. Very specific way in clothing. Who will read the Quran, but it will not pass their throats. I've looked at approximately maybe 20 or so hadith describing them, and I've listed them all here. So this is all the hadiths put into a list. Reading the words, or some discussing, or their deeds not being accepted. That's what that means about the Quran not passing their throats. Quoting verses from the Quran, thinking that it supports them as proof in their false claims. In reality, the verse of Quran is against them. Very, very common. Tongues moist from reciting the Quran because it's easy for them to read, because they memorized it. Speaking the best of words. Allah, Allah Rasulullah, and calling people to the book of Allah and the Quran. The book of Allah and the Sunnah. Quran and Sunnah, akhi, Quran and Sunnah. They will leave this deen like an arrow leaves its target, swiftly and clean. They will make takfir of a person who does a major sin. Or, in this age, something for which takfir cannot be made. So they will randomly call people kafir for what they believe is kufr. Alright? Massively important thing that they do. And they take verses revealed about kuffar and apply them to Muslims. So all the verses that talk about the kuffar of Quraysh, the kuffar of Mecca, they will use those verses and say, you guys, the Muslims, these verses describe you as well, and we'll kill you as well. Young in age, no wisdom, hot-headed, no knowledge, small intellects, not very bright, easily brainwashed, can't grasp deep issues, ignorance, oversimplistic understanding of this faith. Ya akhi, Quran and Sunnah. Ya akhi, just black and white. If there's no hadith, we don't do it. Deen's just simply not that simple. We know that. Alright? There's many different interpretations, valid different interpretations. And they will make you see your prayers and your fasting as nothing in comparison to the level they pray and the fast they fast and the acts of worship that they do. Outwardly pious and very devout. So much so that you're like, wow, these guys are super Muslims. Okay, but they're not. And they will engage in much worship, absorbed very deeply, doing a lot of it. Continuing, and they will emerge from the east towards the end of time. Why is that important for us? Why is that important for us? And what else? Because you and I are in the end of time. So that's quite important, right? That the Prophet is giving us a geographical location here from the east. That's important. The dots should be starting to, I hope. They will appear during a time when there is disunity, seizing areas of land and making it a center for their activity. They will kill Muslims but leave the people of shirk under the false pretense they're kafir. These people pray, these people have mosques. How are you going to go into a mosque on Jum'ah? Alright? And blow yourself up by saying these are kafir. This is a mosque, Jum'ah. People are praying, people in sujood. And this happens in Nigeria, happens in Yemen, it happens wherever these shayateen appear, it happens. Egypt as well. Am I making this up or not? Is it true or not? Does this happen? Yes or no?
Yes.
Extremism and fanaticism in religious matters. Disrespecting the messenger. They do this often. Not knowing it either. And religious authorities. Scholars of the past, scholars right now, they will say, don't follow these scholars are deviant, these scholars are kada, these scholars are on the payroll. Everybody but their small group or their sect is to be followed. Everybody else should not be followed. Like a cult-like mentality. And know what the Prophet say about them? The worst of creation. The worst of creation. Dog of hell. That's what the Prophet says. That's very heavy, right? You don't hear that often from the Prophet. You don't just follow the Shema, you read about the Prophet. These are heavy words. Okay, you could almost argue very uncharacteristic of our Prophet. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But, mashallah, he knows what he's talking about. And they will continue to appear until the last of them appears with the Dajjal. Again, it's important for us because we're heading more in that direction. Alright. Maghrib has come in. That list that I've given you, based on some 20 some hadith or more, keep it safe. Keep it for as long as you are alive, because that list will protect you and those who are closest to you. Why? From being amongst these people. Okay? Because if you end up getting sucked in to that black hole of extremism that the Prophet mentioned, okay, and described and talked about, and the Prophet described that group as the dogs of hell. Right? Which tells you that they're not going to be in Jannah, if that is to be taken literally. So it's a very stark warning for people from joining groups that are calling to the Quran, calling to Hadith. They probably know Quran, or memorize the Quran better than you have. They know more Hadith than you do. They pray more than you pray, fast more than you fast, are more serious in their faith than you are. But that means nothing at the end of the day. But you having knowledge of these characteristics will potentially save you and your children and your family, inshallah. Let it be, no problem. Focus on me, more important than what I'm saying. Okay? Hopefully that message has gotten through. I don't know if it has or hasn't, but I've done my best. Allah inni shahid. Allah innaka anta shahid. Allah, you're my witness. I told him. Simplifying, that's not a joke. Because you know, I passed it on. Not my issue anymore. It wasn't your fault. Simplifying the chaos, looking at the factors that shape our understanding of Islam in the contemporary world. I've mentioned that again because it's important. Just to focus in what it is that I'm trying to tell you in these classes. And what we're looking at are the factors. So simplifying the chaos. Look at the factors that shape your understanding of Islam. Right now, there are factors, there are influences shaping how you think of Islam right now. And the shocking thing for you is you don't know. You do not know how and why and where the views are coming from. Alright? But I'm here tonight, inshallah, to try and shed some light into where some of these views are or potentially coming from. We have spent the last few weeks looking at the history of the Shia and the Khawarij, with particular emphasis on the latter, due to the prophetic warnings. I was asked recently, why are you so focused on the Khawarij and their modern manifestations, and not so much on the Shia, because they're also extreme as well, some of them. And the reason why is that I make no apologies for it, but the reason why is the Prophet warned about the Khawarij. We don't find the level of warnings that we do about the Khawarij with the Shia. And that's not to say that they're right. No, because if someone's cursed Abu Bakr and Umar, your knee-jerk reaction is like, just to move away. Yeah? But that doesn't happen so much with the Khawarij. It's a lot more subtle in the beginning. And this is my point, as for Muslims who are not Shia, the Khawarij of today tend to have a greater, because that distracts me.
Sorry, where are you?
Huh? I will go, I don't need to tell me, I will go. What I'm telling you is keep quiet. As for Muslims who are not Shia, the Khawarij of today tend to have a greater appeal and attraction in today's contemporary world. Huh? Right, do it quick here. Leave that way, it's quicker. Important topic. People are not taking this seriously. Why is that? To answer this question, we first have to look at some key historical figures who today's Khawarij follow in their thinking. So again, as for Muslims who are not Shia, the Khawarij of today tend to have a greater appeal, attraction and success in today's contemporary world. Why? To answer this question, we first have to look at some historical figures from the past who today's Khawarij follow in their thinking. One figure is the scholar of Islam known as Ibn Taymiyyah, who lived over 800 years ago. Quick show of hands. Who's heard of Ibn Taymiyyah? Hands up. Okay. Despite Ibn Taymiyyah not being from the Khawarij, important point, it's not from the Khawarij. The Khawarij of today quote his works heavily and continue to draw inspiration from him and his student Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. This is all going to be on the Google Drive at the end, inshallah. And this is not surprising since they both advanced beliefs and opinions that were heavily criticized, controversial, and extreme in nature. Going against Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah on many issues of Aqidah and Fiqh. To understand the forces that shape many people's Islam, including your Islam, we first have to understand Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim's legacy. But first, okay. How many of you were here when we did the classes on Aqidah last October, November? Okay. Good. And remember the issue of tafweed, ta'wil, non-specific interpretation, hands up who remembers that? Alright, that's what we already done, okay, hence that's why I put it in here. Ambiguous verses, just bear with me for those of you who know this, it's a revision for you, and for those who are new, this is quite important. Ambiguous verses in the Shabihat in the Quran. And these are verses, hadiths, that when taken literally gives the reader, that's you, an impression that Allah has a bodily form. So verses, hadith, when you read them, okay, and take them literally, that's important. It gives you the impression that Allah has a hand, has a face, has a shin, or is sitting, is coming down, is above, these type of things. These verses historically are called the mutashabihat, ambiguous verses. An example, the most merciful is firmly established on the throne. Istawa al-arsh. Also, yad Allah, the hand of God is over their hands. And the hadith, well-known hadith, our Lord descends in the last third of the night. Ambiguous because they, if taken literally, these things give Allah an outward bodily form. That's problematic. How are these verses, hadiths, meant to be understood in light of another verse of the Quran? What does the other verse of the Quran say? There is what?
Nothing.
A bit louder.
Nothing.
There's nothing like him. But those hadiths, those verses of the Quran would indicate that there is something like him. That's the issue. Alright, a quick recap of the mutashabihat verses. Alright, ambiguous verses and hadiths exist that are proven challenging to deal with historically. Lectures 4 and 5 last semester. This is important. This next few slides are important because to understand what we're going to do in the last half of the class, you really need to grasp this part. So please pay attention. One approach in dealing with these hadiths and verses was the approach adopted by the Muslims, the early Muslims, who call the Salaf, and this is called tafwid. Tafwid, which is non-specific interpretation. And this was favored by the Ash'aris and the Maturidis, groups of scholars, as well as the anthropomorphists of Ahl Hadith, as it was the safest. Later Muslim scholars, due to the rise of literalism, anthropomorphism, adopted a more practical approach called ta'wil, a specific interpretation or figurative interpretation. And this was favored by the Ash'aris and the Maturidis, but not the Ahl Hadith, the Hanbalis. And the anthropomorphists, al-Mujassama, or Mushabbiha, who claimed to be Ahl Hadith, Hanbalis, were particularly scathing in their attacks against those who did ta'wil. Alright, so tafwid, this idea, what does tafwid mean? How is this approach in dealing with, and this is the approach of the early Muslims. What do we mean by a non-specific interpretation of the verse that talks about Allah's hand, Allah's face, istawa al-arsh, and so on and so forth. Allah descends in the last third of the night. How is tafwid able to deal with these verses? Number one, read, Ishaq.
Number one, accepting their words as they have come by having faith in them.
So we accept the verse. We accept the hadith. It's there. So we accept it. We don't negate it. And we don't reject it. Because the hadith, Sahih, or a verse of Quran, we don't reject it. We affirm that it's there. That's number one. That's the first. And there's several steps in this concept of tafwid. Number two,
without discussing the exact meaning intended by Allah.
So the meaning of hand, we keep quiet. The meaning of face, we keep quiet. The meaning of istawa al-arsh, we keep quiet. The meaning of descending and last third of the night, we keep quiet. This is the approach of the early Muslims, the Salaf. The early Muslims, this was their approach. They never went into it, just left it. They read the verses and khalas.
Nor describing the how or modality, khayf.
So they affirm it, yes. But they don't describe the how. They don't give it a meaning. The face of Allah, we don't give it a meaning. And nor do we even describe what it's like. Keep quiet. We consign the meaning forthwith. We consign the meaning to God. And the how of the verse, the how of descending, we leave it to Allah. I'll put that in bold. Because I hope those 2 points, number 2 and number 3, massively important for the next half of the lecture.
While negating any literal interpretation.
Any literal interpretation that comes to your mind, we negate that.
Believing of Allah Most High that there is nothing whatsoever like unto Him.
Okay? Nothing like Allah.
And that He is exalted above having any of the attributes of His creation.
Allah has no attributes like you and I. Okay?
Consigning to Allah the real meaning of the mutashabihat or unapparent meanings of the Quran or Hadith, Allah knows best.
Allahu A'lam. We leave it. Allahu A'lam. The how, the meaning, we don't know. Allahu A'lam. We leave it to Allah. And the how, we leave it to Allah as well. Allahu A'lam. Okay? The reason why we say that is because the way of the early Muslims, the exact interpretation we don't know. There's multiple ways, there's multiple words that could mean which of those possibilities is the correct, the early Muslims just kept quiet on it. And that was the favourite approach. And if you haven't been afflicted with anthropomorphism, that's the better approach. That's tafweed. So when someone does tafweed, essentially that's what they're doing. Again, number 2 and number 3, bear them in mind going ahead in today's lecture. Or ta'wil, which is a specific interpretation, where now the scholars started engaging in giving these mutashabihat an interpretation. This was done by some of the Sahaba did this, but then the later half of the Ummah began to do this for good reasons. Keep going.
This was to figuratively interpret these verses or hadith in a way that the Arabic language supports.
So the Arabic language now, when we're going to, those scholars who began to figuratively interpret ta'wil, had to do so while keeping within the Arabic language, or a meaning within the Arabic language that supports that particular figurative interpretation. The Arabic language has to support that interpretation.
Keeping within the context of the verse or hadith.
We have to keep within the context. When the ulama began to figuratively interpret, right, it has to be within the confines of the Arabic language, and it has to be within the confines of the context of the verse talking, that is, all the hadith.
While not contradicting other verses.
Yes. And you can't, that particular interpretation, or metaphorical interpretation, cannot contradict other verses.
For example, face in wherever you turn is the face of God.
Right. I'm going to pause. Why is that verse from the ambiguous, mutashabihat? Let's see if you're paying attention. Why is that from the mutashabihat? Why is it from mutashabihat? Okay, easy one. What is mutashabihat?
Ambiguous verses.
Alright, okay. Next. There's no food in your mouth, no spoon or fork. And why is that particular verse, wherever you turn, is the face of God? Why is that from the...
It's giving God like an image, like a worldly image.
And why is that a problem?
Because it's not supposed to be touched literally.
Excellent. I'm sure you guys are paying attention. MashaAllah. You guys are trying to trick me. You look like the guys are not paying attention. And so... Alright, so the issue is face, right? It's face. You guys continue eating, you deserve it. Issue is face. How has ta'wil, figurative interpretation or specific interpretation, dealt with it? Keep reading.
It means wherever you turn, God is there with His knowledge and power.
So face means what, according to the scholars who do figurative interpretation? Face here means what?
Knowledge and power.
Knowledge and power. You guys on this side, you catching this? What does face mean? Who said that? You've done something good. Not when they invite to point to each other. I'm doing that just to see if you guys are awake. It motivates me to keep going. You see, if I feel like you guys aren't getting it, I feel like I'm not doing my job properly, so I have to, poke and prod to see. Alright, favorite approach, Bismillah.
Favorite approach of the Ash'aris and the Maturidis in times when men of innovation, bid'ah, quoting hadiths and Quranic verses, have caused confusion in the minds of common Muslims as to whether Allah has attributes like those of His creation, or whether He is transcendently beyond any image conceivable to the minds of men.
Okay, so that approach had to be used because when people becoming Muslim, en masse, thousands of people brought their baggage from their other faiths or whatever tradition they followed, that believed that God had a body, had a form, so on and so forth. And when they came to these verses, they kind of stumbled and began to feel, okay, well, these verses, hand, face, shin, descending, kind of resembles the God or the gods or whatever they were from, kind of resembles what we had. It seems the same thing. And this began to creep in within the Ummah and became quite a problem. And because of that, the scholars then couldn't do the first approach, which is say tafweed, which is say don't interpret, just read it without going into too much interpretation. You couldn't do that anymore. Because now people had come with an image. You could no longer say to them, don't go into it. He or she has already gone into it. They believe in God has a hand, face, sitting, up, down. So that you couldn't say to them, don't think about it. It's too late. With this approach, help them. Okay? Alright, Ibn Taymiyyah. Alright, who wants to read? Adam, Bismillah.
Bismillah.
Can I sit down?
Yeah.
You can't look at me and say, why are you sitting down? I can stand up.
Am I reading the title? Or?
Yeah, you can. Come on. It's a good idea.
Oh dear. Ibn Taymiyyah 661 to 728.
Keep going.
1263 to 1328.
Right. You know what AH stands for, by the way, before I ask my question?
After Hijrah.
After Hijrah, Islamic calendar. We are currently in the year 1441. Huh? 1441. How many years ago was Ibn Taymiyyah born?
800 years.
Huh?
About 800 years.
So 800 years, right?
780.
Huh?
780.
780, more precise. Where are you from?
Chechnya.
Chechnya, mashallah, mashallah. What course are you doing, by the way?
No, I'm not doing any course. I just
Come to follow, come to watch. Khair, inshallah. Ibn Taymiyyah was born, what do you say exact?
780.
780 years, mashallah. What does that tell you? Hands up. What does that tell you?
It's recent.
Huh?
It's relatively recently. It's not that far off from.
Nope. Considering we're in what, 1441? And this is 800 years ago. So it's quite a long time ago.
Comparatively.
Long day. It's a long time ago. Okay? It's a long time from the Prophet. Specifically, I know what you're saying. It's a long time from when the Prophet, it's 800 years into the, 600 years into the Prophet's, after the Prophet's Hijrah. Okay, and it's 800 years ago. Okay? And it got a wire got crossed. Alright, Adam, listen.
Ibn Taymiyyah is Ahmad ibn Abdul al-Salam ibn Abdullah Abu al-Abbas Taqi al-Din ibn Taymiyyah al-Harani, born in Haran, east of Damascus, in 661. She's 1263.
Only a weightlifter could do that.
A famous Hanbali scholar in Quranic exegesis, tafsir, hadith and jurisprudence.
He was a scholar. A scholar in his own right. Famous Hanbali. He was a Hanbali and a Mufassir, hadith and fiqh.
Ibn Taymiyyah was a voracious reader and is it voracious? Voracious reader and author of great personal courage, who was endowed with a compelling writing style and a keen memory. Dhahabi wrote of him.
Imam Dhahabi was one of the great scholars of Islam and a student of Ibn Taymiyyah.
Wrote of him, I never saw anyone faster at recalling the Quranic verses dealing with subjects he was discussing, or anyone who could remember hadith texts more vividly.
Ibn Taymiyyah had a memory where he could quote verses from any part of the Quran to support his position. Amazing memory. Some of the scholars describe that it was as if he had all the books of Islam in front of him and he could pull things out. Okay? That's how his knowledge, that's how deep his knowledge was. He was literally able to pull things out. Vast amount of knowledge he had.
Dhahabi estimates that his legal opinions on various subjects amount to 300 or more volumes.
So he produced quite a large output of works. Imam Dhahabi estimates that his legal opinions and fatwa on various subjects amount to about 300 or more volumes.
Dhahabi later distances himself from him due to his heretical beliefs.
So I've given you all the I'm being fair to him. I'm being quite fair. I'll give you all the positives, but now I have to talk about some of the negatives. Okay? I'm dealing with the views, not the individual. I have no issues with the individual, rahmatullah alayhi, the scholar. But I'm presenting to you what the scholars of his time, of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and the scholars to this day of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah have said regarding his views. Alright, this is what I was trying, Ishaq and I were struggling to try and, well, I was struggling perhaps to try to get across. Here are the 4 Imams. Start with Imam Abu Hanifa, over here, 80 to 150. Imam Malik, around about here, 93 to 179. Again, this is the Hijrah. Is the mouse moving around there?
Yes.
Cool. Imam al-Shafi'i is here, 150 to 204. And Imam Ahmad, the 4th of the 4 great Imams, 164 to 241. And then we have Imam al-Ash'ari and Imam al-Maturidi, 260 and 333 respectively. Very early on, within the first 3 centuries, you have the 4 Imams in fiqh, and we have the schools of Aqidah and their respective founders, all within the first 3 centuries. And that's essentially Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah follows those. Okay, Sunni, classical, orthodox, mainstream Islam follows those early Muslims and their interpretive understanding of the Quran and Hadith. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullah alayh, is all the way over here. Alright, Ibn Taymiyyah is all the way over here. We are here. In case anyone wants to know, we're right here. Ibn Taymiyyah is here. So 1, 2, 3, 400 years after the formative great founders of our schools of fiqh and aqidah formulated their views. Okay, keep going.
Ibn Taymiyyah, 661, 728 after Hijrah. He was imprisoned during much of his life in Cairo, Alexandria, and Damascus for his writings.
Very important. He was thrown into prison several times. Okay, for his writings, not for his political, views, but for his writings, what he was saying. What was he saying? That the scholars had to, and the political establishment had to throw him into prison. What was he doing? What was he saying?
Scholars of his time accused him of believing Allah to be corporeal entity because of what he mentioned in his Al-Aqidah Al-Hammawiyah and Al-Wasitiyah and other works.
Excellent. Scholars accuse him of believing Allah to be a corporeal entity, like a body. That's what he was trying to push. And that was pushed in his book Al-Aqidah Al-Hammawiyah, which is written for a group of people in Sham, and his other book Al-Wasatiyah, another book of Aqidah.
Such as that Allah's hand, foot, shin and face are literal, haqiqi attributes, and that He is upon the throne in person, bi thatihi, amongst other anthropomorphisms.
That's what he believed, that's what he's pushing in his books. Allah has a hand, literally. Allah has a face, literally. Allah is established on the throne in essence, His essence. Okay? Amongst other things. Which is against Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, as we've already established. But because of his rank, because of how famous he was, because of how strong he was in knowledge and the power he had in his views and the way he described it and the rank he had, scholars really feared, that he influenced a lot of people in this particular in these views. And the scholars said we have to put him into, make Tawbah wasn't going to do that, so they had to imprison him. Alright?
Scholars' firmness in condemning those who have raised such confusions has traditionally been very uncompromising.
The scholars of Islam, historically, in healthy times, not at the time today, in healthy times of old, scholars have been very strict in condemning such things.
This is no doubt the reason that a number of the Imams of Shafi'i school, among the Taqi al-Din Subki, Ibn Hajar, Haytami and Al-Iz ibn Jama'ah, gave formal legal opinions, fatwa, that Ibn Taymiyyah was misguided and misguiding in tenets of faith, and warned people from accepting his theories.
So these are just a few scholars, just a few, and there's more, who wrote fatwa against him, saying, warning people, this Ibn Taymiyyah, despite everything we know about him, despite the good works and everything else, he seems to have gone wrong when it comes to the issues of Allah and his mutashabihat. Alright? And the scholars were very strict. They were strict with what they said and the fatwa. And you can find them, you Google Ibn Hajar al-Haytami fatwa on Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Hajar al-Haytami obviously is a great Shafi'i scholar, and those who study Shafi'i with me will know.
The Hanafi scholar Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari has written,
Sheikh Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari was an Egyptian scholar of the last century from Azhar, and in response to people of this age saying that there was a conspiracy against Ibn Taymiyyah, that all the scholars, wherever he went, were jealous of him, and they informed the leaders of the time to lock up in prison. Okay, that was the kind of idea that some people have and still have today. It's a big conspiracy. He was thrown into prison. Forget that he was saying Allah has a hand, Allah has a face, Allah is sitting on the throne. Forget all that. No, it was a conspiracy of jealousy. Right? Sheikh Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari says,
whoever thinks that all the scholars of his time joined a single conspiracy against him from personal envy should rather impugn their own intelligence and understanding after studying the repugnance of his deviations in beliefs and works, for which he was asked to repent time after time and moved from prison to prison until he passed on to what he'd sent ahead.
So what the scholars say is that keep that idea away. That's not true. It wasn't this big conspiracy, everyone was jealous of him, because he was some great, fantastic scholar that everybody hated and also were jealous of. No, he was saying things that went against 600 years worth of scholarship. Okay, that was dangerous. Okay, that's the real reason, not the fact that, he made other scholars feel jealous and uncomfortable. That's what people are trying to portray.
While few deny that Ibn Taymiyyah was a copious and eloquent writer and hadith scholar, his career, like that of others, demonstrates that a man may be outstanding in one field and yet suffer from radical deficiencies in another, the most reliable index of which is how a field's imams regard his work in it.
So, yes, and we acknowledge, we're going to give his fair due, right? Be true, all right? Eloquent writer, big scholar in the field that he was right in, but you could be massive in one field and suffer from massive radical deficiencies in another. Okay? And how do you and I judge that? Well, we don't. But the scholars who are experts in that field, they will tell you. So if the scholars of Aqidah believe that Allah doesn't have a hand, literally, has a face, literally, is sitting, literally, or is in a direction, or in his creation, or within time or space, or confined, if the scholars of Islam and the Quran reject that, then anybody that says otherwise, we reject. And that's what's happened here.
By this measure, indeed, by the standards of all previous al-Sunnah scholars, it is clear. Al-Sunnah scholars, it is clear that despite voluminous and influential written legacy, Ibn Taymiyyah cannot be considered an authority on tenets of faith.
That's what the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah say. When it comes to Aqidah, Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh cannot be considered an authority. Alright? That's the take-home message with that.
A field in which he made mistakes profoundly incompatible with the beliefs of Islam, as also with a number of his legal views that violated the scholarly consensus of Sunni Muslims.
So not only in Aqidah, there were other things where he went against hundreds of years worth of agreed positions. Alright, and we'll talk about that later.
It should be remembered that such matters are not the province of personal reasoning, ijtihad, whether Ibn Taymiyyah considered them to be so out of sincere conviction, or whether simply because, as Imam Subki said, His learning exceeded his intelligence.
And finally,
He died in Damascus in 728, 1328.
rahmatullah alayhi. And this is quite, that part in red is important. It should be remembered that such matters in Aqidah specifically are not the realm of your personal reasoning, your personal opinion. Right? That's not what we use when we come to describing Allah's attributes, what you think. And that's massively important in this day and age. Because a lot of people now are using their own ijtihad to interpret verse of the Quran. This video, the TED video of a particular woman talking about the hijab, she's using her own personal reasoning to derive a view that is outside of Sunni Orthodox Islam when it comes to hijab. Okay? So, what Ibn Taymiyyah did, and this is massively important, is that he began to use his own ijtihad, his personal reasoning, when it came to attributes of Allah and in other fatwa in fiqh. And that's what led him so far away from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He's still a Muslim. Still a Muslim. But that's what he did. And this is today what the extremists use. They use their own ijtihad, and the reformists. We have two extremes, right? We have the liberal reformists who do their own ijtihad. You don't need to wear the hijab. You don't need to pray. You don't need to eat halal. You don't need to do this. That's their own personal ijtihad. And you have the other side, they have their own personal ijtihad. Akhi, you can't be in England, they're all kafir. Take out a knife and stab them. They're killing your people. They're doing all this. Same thing. But Ibn Taymiyyah, whether he knew it or not, influenced him by doing this own ijtihad. That's what the scholars really hammered him, and rightly so, for doing that. You're using your ijtihad in the wrong way. He was such a big scholar that some of the scholars began to say that he became super confident and began to debate with people. And a lot of his life was debating with other sects. He would debate with Shia, he would debate with the sects, he would debate with Christians, he would just debate. And I think that kind of affected him. Also, he was a product of his age. A lot of fitna in that time, sects, political instability. If you read the history, he's a product of his age. Rahmatullah alayhi, Allah's mercy be upon him. Died in Damascus. Okay. Alright, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, Abdullah. You want to move over there or you want to sit over there? It's fine here. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, who is Ibn Taymiyyah's #1 student. What gave you something? Why are we looking at these two? What's the purpose? Hands up. Why are we looking at these particular people? Other than Simon? There's other girls here, I think. Why are we looking at these two? What's so important about these two? Abdullah? Huh? Hands up. So I can see. Okay. The Khawarij took a lot of influence. And the Khawarij of today quote them heavily. Okay, Bismillah, here we go. Let's see if you're as good as Adam.
شمس الدين أبو عبد الله الزهري الدمشقي الحنبلي, known as Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah.
What do you think, Adam?
Pretty decent.
Pretty decent.
Born in Damascus, 691. A Hanbali scholar and specialist in Quranic commentary, hadith, fiqh and its principles.
Massive scholar. Okay? I'm giving half where its half is due.
His most significant contribution, however, was his editing and preparing for publication the writings of his teacher, Ibn Taymiyyah, whose devoted pupil he was. He went to prison with his sheikh in Syria and stayed there until Ibn Taymiyyah passed away in 728 when he was released.
So Ibn Qayyim was his #1 student, and he went to prison with him because both of them didn't back down on their opinions. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi passed away in prison, And from then, Ibn Qayyim was then released after him.
He was the foremost disciple of Ibn Taymiyyah, whose anthropomorphic and anti-Madhhab teachings he helped perpetuate, working to spread and popularize his master's ideas, as dedicated to him in death as he was in life, supporting him in what was right and what was wrong.
So, mashallah, this Ibn Qayyim, rahmatullah alayh, just pushing Ibn Taymiyyah's views. Okay? Even after his death, he was still pushing the views. Okay? As dedicated to him in death as he was in life. Wish I had a student like that. Alright, here's Ibn Qayyim. Okay, subhanAllah. How many years between them?
So, you mean between these?
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
30 years.
What's your name again, sorry?
Ali.
Ali, mashallah. You're my maths student now. 30 years, subhanAllah. So, it's a long time, right? A long time after. Okay? Pretty much in the middle. Okay? And these two, influential for the wrong reasons.
Ibn Qayyim promotes Ibn Taymiyyah's views. He faithfully followed his teacher, Ibn Taymiyyah, in suggesting that Allah was a corporeal entity in writings such as Al-Aqidah al-Hamawiyah, Al-Aqidah al-Wasitiyah, and Al-Ta'sis al-Ghad al-Anis al-Taqdis.
Nearly there. By the way, does anybody have that particular book in English, Aqidah al-Hamawiyah, at home? Or Aqidah al-Wasitiyah? If you do, get rid of it. Unless it's your parents, do it in a nice way.
Here and in other works, he indicates Allah's hand, foot, qadam, shin, sak, face, wajh, and elevation, ulu, and literal.
Literal. Literal.
All are literal attributes, and that he is upon the throne in person.
Be that.
A phrase which his student Al-Dhahabi frequently condemns as innovated bid'ah in the religion.
Okay, so Imam al-Dhahabi, the great scholar, Imam al-Dhahabi, who was a student for Ibn Taymiyyah, but didn't take these views, said this is bid'ah, this is innovation. To describe Allah as having a literal hand, face, being in upward direction, sitting on the throne. This is all, subhanAllah, bid'ah, innovation. No one said this before.
Ibn Qayyim followed Ibn Taymiyyah's error in believing such attributes to be literal and declaring as nullifiers of the attributes as all the Ahl Sunnah who interpret them via ta'wil, metaphorically, such as the Ash'aris and the Maturidis.
Okay, let's just pause on this just to unpack this. Ibn Qayyim followed Ibn Taymiyyah in everything, good and bad, wrong and right, and specifically in the error, in believing that the attributes have to be interpreted literally. And, pay attention, forget that, look at me, because that's confusion, look at me, okay? And they both, anybody who did not interpret these things literal, they would accuse you of being a nullifiers or mu'attala of these verses, meaning that you are negating the attributes of God. If you don't say that Allah has a hand, Allah has a face, literally, you are negating the verse of Quran. You are going against the verse of Quran. You're going against the attributes of God. You are nullifying. You are making void the attributes of God that He's talking about. Do you understand that point? Good. Obviously, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah don't do that, right? We either keep quiet, we don't interpret, we just keep quiet, believe in them, however Allah intended them to be, or we figuratively interpret them in a way befitting. Obviously, that's going to be attacked by literalists, because literalists don't say that. And hence, they were attacked heavily. Especially by Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Ash'ari and the Maturidis are attacked verbally, also physically as well.
Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya Jawziyah's poem. Ibn Qayyim followed the same path as his teacher in his infamous poem entitled Al-Qasida al-Muniyya, Ode rhyming in the letter M.
So he wrote a poem. And many scholars would write things in poetry form because it helped people to memorize them.
This lengthy poem on the tenets of faith is filled with corrupt suggestions about the divine attributes, which Subki analyzes in detail in his As-Sayf al-Saqi.
Imam al-Subki is a famous scholar, contemporary, who wrote heavily against Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, their views, heavily. Okay, you could find those, be translated into English, worthwhile reading. Imam al-Subki's refutation of Ibn Taymiyyah. The burnished sword in refuting Ibn Zafir, i.e. Ibn Qayyim.
Subki gives the verdict that anthropomorphists of the divinity in the poem are beyond the pale of Islam. The poem could not be openly circulated in Ibn al-Qayyim's time, but only secretly, and it seems that he never abandoned it. For the Hanbali historian Ibn Rajab heard it from its author in the year of his death, as stated in his
So this poem, although it couldn't be openly distributed because it's a healthy time, scholars would close that down straight away. But it seems like he didn't leave it. He still had these views. By the way, just to be fair, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani narrates that Ibn Taymiyyah in prison wrote like an apology, and he made tawbah for those views that he had. Okay, if I've got time later and somebody reminds me, I find in the book, I read out his confession of what he wrote while he was in prison, where he says, I don't subscribe to those views anymore. Rahmatullah alayhi.
While granting that his other scholarly achievements are not necessarily compromised by his extreme aberrance in the tenets of faith, it should not be forgotten that depicting the latter as a reform or return to early Islam represents a blameworthy innovation on his part that appeared more than 7 centuries after the time of the Prophet and his companions.
In other words, yes, we recognize the great works that he produced, and he did. Okay, but we should not forget some of the extreme elements, at least in Aqidah, of where he went away from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Specifically in this day and age, where their views have become famous again. Alright? And these views now are termed as the way of the early Muslims and the way of the Prophet and of the Sahaba. And that wasn't the way at all. Some of that, these views didn't become popular or didn't hit heavy until 7 centuries later. So depicting literalism in these verses, okay, as the way of the Ummah, as the way of the Sahaba is rejected, and that in itself is a bid'ah, is an innovation to believe in that or to promote that.
A particularly ugly aspect of it is that it attempts to vindicate the doctrine Ibn al-Qayyim casts aspirations upon the Islam of anyone who does not subscribe to it.
If you don't think that Allah has a literal hand, has a literal face, so on and so forth, your aqeedah is something wrong with your aqeedah, brother. If you don't believe in that, your aqeedah is wrong.
At their forefront, the Ash'ari Maturidi school, whom his books castigate as Jahmiyyah or Mu'attila, the defiers of the attributes, implying by equating them with the most extreme factions of the Mu'tazilites that they deny any significance to the divine attributes.
So if you didn't believe in literalism of Ibn Qayyim, Ibn Taymiyyah, okay, they would accuse you of being a Mu'tazili. If you were Ash'ari or Maturidi, they would accuse you of being Mu'tazili. Why? Because the Mu'tazilites rejected or they negated attributes of God in the Quran. So they said, because you're negating my literal interpretation of these verses, you are like the Mu'tazilites over there, who were deviants, because they also went to extremes and rejected God's attributes as well. So they put him in there with them.
misrepresentation that has seen a revival in parts of the Muslim world
today. I wonder why that is.
Abu Hanifa said,
Anybody else want to read? How about, you want to read? Not particularly. Who particularly wants to read? How about any assistant want to read?
I'll
No?
do it if I can miss out all the Arabic bit.
Adam will help you. Alright,
You did it.
Tag team.
there we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Oh, the Arabic.
Oh, Abu Hanifa.
Said.
Abu
Abu Hanifa said.
Abu Hanifa said, two depraved opinions have reached us from the east, those of Jahm, the nullifier of the divine attributes, and those of the Muqatil, the likener of Allah to His creation.
It's important. It's reported that Imam Abu Hanifa said two depraved opinions have reached us from the east. Interesting, the east. Those of Jahm, who is a particular individual, who began to nullify the divine attributes, to nullify them completely. And those of Muqatil, if I can pronounce it correctly, who liken Allah to His creation. So Imam Abu Hanifa is saying these two extreme views, we've started to hear about these two extreme views. Jahm, or the Jahmiyyah, as they were called, that sect, the nullifier of the divine attributes of God, completely nullified, which we don't do that. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we don't nullify. Okay, we believe in them, but we don't try to interpret in a literal way. So Allah alam. Or we figure to interpret. Either way, we don't nullify. And those of Muqatil, the likener of Allah to His creation. Both extremes, right? Can you see that? One is going excessively, no, and the other one's going excessively, yes, literally. Two extremes.
To make these two in either or for Muslims, or to depict the latter as the Sunnah, when it has been counted among the heresies and rejected by the Muslims Ummah for the first 7 centuries of Islam that preceded Ibn Qayyim and his teacher Ibn Taymiyyah, is to say the least difficult to accept.
To say the least, difficult to accept. Alright, let me explain it. To make these two approaches, to completely nullify any divine attributes of God, or to say that God resembles His creation, to make these two an either you believe that, or you believe that. Okay? Or to believe that the last option, the latter, which is what? What's the latter of the two?
Likener.
The likening Allah to His creation, or to depict that as the way of the Sunnah, as the way of the Salaf, when it has been counted among the heresies and rejected by the Muslim Ummah for the first 7 centuries of Islam that came before Ibn Qayyim and his teacher, is to say the least difficult to accept. Do you get it? Because that's what they do. That's what they did. Either you're nullifying it, or you have to accept the likeness. And Imam Abu Hanifa said both of these are extremes. Do you get that? Inshallah. Alright. The Taymiyyan dilemma. This is the dilemma that Ibn Taymiyyah and this view puts you in. Keep going.
The way Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim poem, along with their other works, presents the reader with a false dilemma. Namely, that one must either believe that Allah has eyes, hands, a descending motion, and so forth in a literal haqiqi sense, or else one has nullified atalla or negated these attributes just like the Mutazilites had done.
Do you understand that? Alright, again. Anybody want me to explain it again? I'd rather you say I don't get it and we explain it again rather than you saying yeah and then we go and get it. Do you understand? I'm happy to repeat again, but I need to be told first. Are we all okay? Can I get a yes?
Yes.
Can I get a shake of the head? Natasha.
Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn Qayyim claim that this approach was the way of the early Muslims, something that Ahlul Sunnah rejected outright, condemning him by imprisoning him for his views.
Alright, this is important. Essentially, the way of tafweed of the early Muslims and tafweed of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim and those who follow them. What, basically, I've summarized it, what Ahlul Sunnah say and what Ibn Taymiyyah says. So you can see it, where they've gone wrong and those who follow him. Just pay attention, yeah?
Tafweed of the Salaf, Asharis, Maturidis, and the Ahlul Hadith,
Tafweed
Hanbalis.
means what? Consigning the real meaning of the verses of the hadith to Allah. Allahu A'lam. That's what tafweed means, yeah? You consign. No consignments? Another word for consign? How can you give me if you don't know what it means? You leave it to Allah. Wallahu A'lam. Wallahu A'lam. You leave it to Allah. That's what consigning. Fawwid. وَأَفَوِّضَ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I leave my affairs to God. So tafweed is to leave it to God. The way of the Salaf, the Ash'aris and the Maturidis and Ahl Hadith, Hanbalis, tafweed is?
Tafweed of the meaning and the modality, how, kaif.
So the tafweed of the early Muslims was to say, for example, about the hand of God, we leave the meaning of hand to God. We don't know what it means. Leave it to Allah. There are several meanings that it could be. Which one? We don't know. We leave it to Allah. And the how of this hand, or the how of the dissension, we leave it to Allah. Even me doing that is wrong, by the way. But there we go. Okay? The meaning of descent, the meaning of istiwa, we don't know. And the how of the descent, or of the hand, we leave it. We don't know either. Leave it to Allah. That's the way of tafweed. Tafweed, figurative, is that we've given a figurative interpretation. Well, that's not what we're talking about. Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim had issue with tafweed anyway. They didn't believe in that. Do you understand that point? The meaning we don't know, and the how we don't know. Leave it to Allah. The safest way. Did you get that? Alright, contrasting that with Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim.
Tafweed according to Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim.
This is important. This is important. This is a difficult point to get across. I'm trying my best to summarize. It took me a long time. This is the best I can get, inshallah ta'ala. So please, give it its due.
The meaning is known, literally, hand, eye, sitting, but the modality or how, kaif, is unknown, hence we make tafweed on the how.
So the tafweed, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, according to Ibn Qayyim, tafweed, consigning of the meanings of the verse, tafweed to Ibn Taymiyyah was to say, well, the meaning of hand, we know what hand means. We know what face means. We know what istiwa, which he as literally as sitting. We know what they mean. But what we don't know is the how of the face, the how of the hand, the how of sitting, the how of descent. That we don't know. And therefore, with that aspect, we leave it to Allah. And that's what he did. And that's what people do today. We follow this way. So you'll find them, for example, that they'll say, Haya, God has a hand. Yeah, it says in the Quran, Yad Allah, Wajh Allah. Yeah, that's what they say. But not like my hand. He has a hand, but not like my hand. That's Ibn Taymiyyah. And what the problem then is what?
Ibn Taymiyyah believed that this was the way of the Salaf and accused Ahl Sunnah of being deviant as they did not subscribe to his definition.
That was the problem. You didn't believe in that way? You're deviant. You're from the Mu'tazilites, you're Ahl Bid'ah, you're heretical, so on and so forth. Can you see where he's gone wrong? Can you see it? Who can tell me where he's gone wrong? Make my day. Dirty Harry said that. Yeah, everyone knows. Anyone knows Dirty Harry's? Okay, too young. You would know. What's gone wrong? What's he done wrong there? Grace us?
That he still thinks that there is a hand, there is an eye, he is sitting, but he's leaving that bit.
The how of it.
Yeah.
But the way of the early Muslims is to leave the meaning and the modality, the how, the kayf of it. Okay? He did it, well, we know what it means, but the how we don't know. That's heretical. And that's where the anthropomorphism comes in. Good, I hope you got that. Alright, why is this approach wrong? Bismillah. Nearly finished. Keep going, Isaac, nearly finished.
This is wrong because the literal meaning of hand, eyes, moving, etc., which comes to people's minds, is that which corresponds to the common usage of the word as ordinarily used in a language by the people who speak it. While the Quranic words are clearly intended otherwise, in accordance with the verse, there is nothing whatsoever like unto him. If the above were intended literally, there would be innumerable things like unto him in such respect as having eyes, hands, motion, and so forth, in the literal meaning of these terms.
Someone says hand, what comes to your head? Yeah. Someone says face, what comes to your head? Yeah, so literally, there's no way around that. If you're going to take it literally, that's what comes into the common usage of hand, face, sitting, is that what comes to your mind by the common usage of the language. That's problematic because it goes against the verse, there's no thing, laysa kamithlihi. And the problem with that is that if we were to intend it literally, you have a hand, I have a hand, you have a face, Allah has a face. A'udhu billah. Our Father who art in heaven. Anybody heard of that? What is that?
Lord's Prayer.
The Lord's Prayer. But that's pretty similar to what Ibn Taymiyyah is saying, is it not?
The would-be dilemma is also far from the practice of the early Muslims, who used only to accept such Quranic verses and hadiths as they have come, consigning the knowledge of what is meant by them.
Tafweed.
While affirming the absolute transcendence of Allah above any resemblance to created things, without trying to determinately specify how they are meant, bi la kayf, let alone suggesting people understand them literally, hakikatan, as Ibn al-Qayyim tried to do.
Alright, so I've put a list together of some of Ibn Taymiyyah's and Ibn Qayyim's deviations, and this will be interesting for you, inshallah, to have a look at. So pay attention to the list of things. It's not an exhaustive list, but some of the things I've come across.
Some of these went against, number 1, the Aqidah of Ahl-Sunnah. Number 2, the consensus ijma of the scholars of the past.
So all the scholars agreed on a particular issue, all the scholars of a particular time agreed on a particular issue, and then that becomes part of our deen, so to speak. Ibn Taymiyyah would go against that in his views.
Number 3, some contravene the correct position in the Hanbali school.
So he even went against his own school in fiqh in a lot of issues, also the other 3 schools.
His opinions were backed up by his claiming that this was the opinion of the early Muslims, Salaf, the Quran and the Sunnah, in an aim to add legitimacy to his views that he was calling people back to the way of the early Muslims.
So he would use that, rahmatullah alayhi, heavily. And this is the way of the Quran and the Sunnah and the early Muslims and al-A'immah. Always, not always, but a lot of the time, that's a statement that he will push out. And a lot of times, that's not the case at all. When people who don't know get swept away by that.
The following is not an exhaustive list, but contains some of the opinion attributed to be leading scholars of his time who either
attributed to him, Mr.
attribute to him
by leading scholars.
by leading scholars of his time who either read them or heard them from him.
So what you're about to hear, the next 2 or 3 slides that we're going to finish off with, inshallah ta'ala, are things which either he said, or people heard him say, or people saw him do. And these are major scholars of Islam, so if you can't trust our major scholars in Islam, who can we trust?
Aqidah, saying that Allah is made up of parts, needing a hand, eye, foot, etc. Confining Allah within His creation, time and space, for example in an upward direction, sitting on His throne above the heavens, etc. That the Prophet would sit next to Allah on the throne.
I've come across people who said that. Wallah al-Alim, just today, somebody told me that. They tried to convince me. Allah sat on the throne, and there's a space next to him for the Prophet. In Christianity, it's something similar. Jesus sitting next to them. Yeah. In Christianity, it's something similar where, God, and then there's a place, Jesus is next to him. So I read that somewhere. But I wanted to clarify. Have you heard that before? Here we go.
Describing the descent of Allah in the last third of the night by climbing down the steps of the pulpit, just like this descent of mine.
What he did in one of his sermons or in his public addresses is that when describing his hadith on the pulpit, the minbar, he actually walked down 2 steps. And described Allah descending, or descending in the last third of the night, he actually walked down steps. Like that, describing it, Allah descends like this. He walked down 2 steps. So people went crazy with that. That's recorded historically. Several scholars have recorded, including Ibn Hajar Asqalani.
His division of Tawhid into 2 types, al-Rububiyya, oneness of lordship, and al-Uluhiyya, oneness of godhood, despite the Messenger never teaching this to the Sahaba.
There are certain things that we're going to look now in the next couple of slides. I don't have time to break them down. So I can imagine that some of you were like, okay, that's something I thought was right. And obviously now you're getting taught, no it's not. I won't have time to go into that, we can sit down another time. But something he did, he broke down the unbreakable, right?
Yeah.
Unbreakable. Which is Tawheed, which means the oneness of God. He broke it down to 2. So there's a Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the oneness of lordship, and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, which is the oneness of godhood. Despite the Prophet ﷺ never breaking down Tawheed into 2. That was never done. Neither by the people before him, before Ibn Taymiyyah, right back to the Prophet. The Prophet never taught the Sahaba Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. These things did not exist. Obviously, Ibn Taymiyyah had a way of justifying that, which we won't go into, but the point is that nobody had that view. Nobody had that before Ibn Taymiyyah. This is an innovation of breaking Tawheed into 2 types.
Attacking the Ash'aris Maturidis by calling them deviants, innovators. Ibn Taymiyyah and the Prophet. Prophets are not immune to sin and not divinely protected.
In Aqidah, we studied it in Christmas, one of the things that the Prophets are, when we forecast this is Isma or Ma'soom. They are divinely protected from error. Prophets do not sin. Okay, major sin. There's no disagreement on that. Major sin, no. Ibn Taymiyyah kind of moved away from that particular view and said that they are divinely protected.
That the Prophet has no special status before Allah and must not be used as an intermediary, tawassul istighatha, being the first to ever say such thing from the scholars, although historical reports say that he repented from this.
So the issue of going, this is going to be a big one for some of you, the issue of going to the Prophet's grave and seeking from the Prophet dua to help you with a particular matter, while believing it's Allah, it's called tawassul. Or istighatha, Ya Rasulullah, I'm believing that Allah is the one that benefits you. There's nothing that harm you or benefit you except for Allah. Ibn Taymiyyah classified that as haram. You can't do that. And he was the first one to say that tawassul, istighatha, saying Ya Rasulullah, was something that is haram. He was the first one to introduce that. Okay, so the whole idea of going to the graves, going to the grave of the Prophet or the grave of the great awliya, the Sahaba, and asking them to make dua for you, Ibn Taymiyyah was the one that said that's haram, and we have the whole grave worshipping claim of today based on that.
The one who travels to visit the Prophet's grave has committed haram and an innovation, bid'ah. This is one of the ugliest matters ever reported from him, according to Hafiz ibn Hajar.
So Ibn Taymiyyah also had the claim where you can't go to visit the Prophet in his grave. You can't visit the Prophet. It's haram. A journey going, setting out to visit the Prophet, to visit and pay respects, was haram. You can't do that. Despite all 4 schools saying, in the books of Hajj, in any of the form of the great schools of fiqh, they have a whole chapter about the visitation of the Prophet and the adab And there's many hadith talking about that, which Ibn Taymiyyah rejected. And Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the famous commentator of Sahih Bukhari, said this is one of the most ugliest things that have ever been reported from Ibn Taymiyyah. Rahmatullah alayhi.
That shortening the prayers on this journey is not allowed as it is haram.
And since the journey to go to visit the Prophet, in his opinion, is haram, then shortening your prayers is haram. You can't do that because the journey is haram. That's why he had that view as well.
That the punishment of the hellfire will come to an end and not last forever.
This is a big one. And scholars rejected and invoked refutation. We actually believe that the hellfire is not eternal, which many people of this age would be very happy with. Actually, that's what he believed. And refutation were written against him. Okay?
Ibn Taymiyyah and the Sahaba. Insulting Ali by saying that he was forsaken everywhere he went, repeatedly tried to acquire the caliphate and never attaining it, fighting out of lust and power.
They are the kind of things that Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh, has written or said. Obviously rejected, right? No, it's Ibn Ali, it wasn't like this. And that's why Ibn Taymiyyah is looked at as the Sheikh of Nawasib. Yeah, the Nasb. Yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah is looked at as the Sheikh of Nawasib because he had a very strong tongue.
Doubting Ali's Shahada as it was done whilst he was a young boy.
So he said that Abu Bakr's Shahada, because Abu Bakr was an older man, his Shahada is valid. But Ali, when he became Muslim, he was a young boy. And the testification or the witnessing of a young child is rejected. That's what his kind of, his ijtihad led him. Therefore, him witnessing something because he's below the age of puberty, issues. Because a child cannot be a witness. You get the point? So therefore he had...
Insulting Fatima by saying that she had a resemblance to the hypocrites. Criticizing the scholars of Tasawwuf, although he himself belonged to the Qadri Tariqa of Abdul Qadir al-Jilani.
He was a person of Tasawwuf, he was a Sufi by his own admission, and he was a Qadri in Tariqa, that's a fact, no one can deny that, despite people of his age who claim to follow him, they have issues with that. But he was a bit too heavy, not a bit, he was very heavy in his criticisms of the people of Tasawwuf. Not that some of them didn't deserve to be criticized, but he criticized that which was right. That's the problem that people had.
That the world is pre-eternal.
He also believed in that. The world, the dunya, is pre-eternal, has no beginning. Wallah, will ask me to explain.
That the words of the Torah and the Gospel were not substituted or altered, but only their meanings were.
That's what he believed in his time, that the Bible, the Torah, and the Gospel had not been changed. For people's understanding, that's where the text still remained the same. He wrote books, wrote a book on that. And people, scholars rejected him for that as well. Alright, and in fiqh, last one.
Going against the four schools in issues of divorce, pronouncing divorce 3 times in one sitting counts as one.
So Ibn Taymiyyah believed that saying anti-talaqa 3 times in one gathering counts as one. All 4 schools say it's 3. 3 is 3. Okay? Some of these things may be strange. Those of you who study marriage, you'll understand this.
Divorce conditional on an oath being met doesn't stand. Divorce in menses not counting.
So the issue of divorce conditional on an oath. So should somebody say, if you go out, you're divorced? Right? Or the schools of fiqh say, if you go out, you're divorced. Once the condition has been met, then the divorce is binding. He said no. Even if you do the condition, it's not binding. It goes against the schools. And divorce while a woman is on their period is not counted either. Obviously against the schools.
Haram to make up prayers missed deliberately.
This is quite a famous one that's become widely known in this day and age, where if you miss prayers, you don't have to make them up anymore. Okay? That's Ibn Taymiyyah's view. But Ibn Taymiyyah's view is that it's haram to do it. And what he meant by that is that because you missed it, you can never do it again, you can never make it up. Because it's gone. The time of it is gone. You can never ever make up that prayer ever again. So he was kind of strict approach. Again, going against the schools, going against the ulama in that particular opinion, but an opinion that I've heard many people use. And after once you miss it, you don't have to make it up. All four schools say you're going to make up this prayers in your own time, obviously. Then you finished.
Calling for the repentance and if not the execution of those who uttered their intentions for prayer out loud, which is the main opinion of the Shafi'i school, including Shafi'i himself.
In the Shafi'i school, and I think other schools, but definitely in the Shafi'i school, which I'm familiar with, it is recommended to, before you pray, to say the niyyah, usalli, salatul isha, fardan. It's recommended to say the niyyah out loud. Recommended. Ibn Taymiyyah says that somebody who does that, or who believes that's part of the religion, then that person is wrong, and that person should be told. And if that person says no, this is something that has been legislated or something that's within the Sharia, which the Shafi'is do say that, then they should be executed. So therefore, he's calling for the killing. And that fatwa is, I didn't believe in that until somebody told me, and I looked in the book, and it's there, it's fatwa. I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. But there we go.
Criticizing other madhabs' positions. Narrowing of the concept of innovation, bid'ah. I.e., the Mawlid is bid'ah, gatherings of dhikr is bid'ah.
Very famous in his time, after saying the Mawlid is a bid'ah. Again, nobody of any, maybe one or two scholars, but he was the major one that actually said, it's bid'ah. Because obviously his understanding of bid'ah is so narrow. Again, going against the vast majority of scholars of his time. And gatherings of dhikr is also bid'ah as well, because his understanding of bid'ah is very narrow. Alright, who wants to do the summary and finish off? Assam, you ready?
Okay. Both Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim are scholars who held views that are against Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah on matters of Aqidah and Fiqh. They were imprisoned for these views as scholars of the time feared they would spread amongst people and cause fitna, strife. Avoid their works, especially if you have not been taught the madhab in fiqh, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbali, and Aqidah according to the Ash'aris and or Maturidis. No one is perfect except the messengers, so have a good opinion of them, as the two mentioned were scholars who got some things right and others wrong. May Allah forgive us, them, and the Ummah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So, both Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim are scholars, first and foremost, who held views that were against Ahl Sunnah. And they were imprisoned for these views, as scholars of their time, rightly so, feared that these views would trickle down to the masses. My point for you tonight is to avoid their works, especially those amongst you who have not gone through a particular madhab in fiqh, and especially if you haven't been taught aqidah. Then if you haven't done this, don't read the books, because you'll be sucked in to some of the opinions that exist, and they do exist in many of their books, that go against Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Having said that, no one's perfect, right? No one's perfect. Allah is al-Kamil, and the Prophet is perfection in human form, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the prophets. Have a good opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim. Have a good opinion of them. They're Muslims, ulama. As they were scholars who got things right, and some things wrong. Okay, to be fair. May Allah forgive us, them, and the Ummah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen. Say Ameen.
Ameen.
Alright, last thing. How many of you have come across these views or know someone who have these views? Like family, friends, co-workers. Everything, these views that we've come across today, that I've put forward to you as being the views of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim, and they are the founders or the introducers of these views. How many of you have come across these views? Either yourselves, your family, or you know someone? Hands up. Keep the hands up high. I want them high. I don't want your elbow down, I want the elbow up in the sky. I want to see. Hands up high. Give them a count. 1, 2, start from the back. Keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Have I come to you guys? Okay. That doesn't surprise me. How did I know that? I don't have any abilities. I don't have firasa, for those of you who know what that means. But how did I know?
Your experience.
More than half of you put your hands up. And those of you who didn't probably have, they don't put their hands up. More than half of you put your hands up. I was going to say 80%, but give it to half. Half of you, or more have come across these views. Either you hold these views, or you've come across these views, or you have family who have these views, or whatever. Strange or not? So, how did these scholars who lived 800 years ago become so popular, perhaps more in their own time, to the point where you now have come across their views? How did that happen? By the way, they were in prison. Ibn Taymiyyah died in prison for his views, locked up for his views. And all of a sudden now, Ibn Qayyim's views couldn't be publicized, keep them quiet. All of a sudden now, you guys now have these views, or come across these views, maybe some of you believe in these views. Interesting, inshallah. Hence, that's why I picked this topic, and that's why I'm going in a particular direction with this topic. Class by class, the dots will be joined up for you, and you get to see what it is that I'm trying to show you. You have to keep coming, inshallah. So come next week, and I'll tell you why that is. All right, Q&A.